Let us get the show on the road. It is Steve along with the coach, Greg Kennedy. Welcome to another episode of the Jim Keay Ford Sens Nation podcast. I think the big news today, Greg, is finding out what's going on with Shane Pinto, and we did. We're recording this on a snowy Saturday in the capital, and we found out after the game day skate that Shane Pinto would be lost to the Senators for at least 2 weeks. It's always at least that puts a bit of fear of God into Sens fans, but he got injured in the game against the New York Rangers. Not a very good game, a 4-2 loss to the Rangers on Thursday night. So the injury bug, never very far away from this team, is it?
No, that's a big loss too, right? Like Shane Pinto's been having a great year. He fits right in nicely there. That line has been the number one line in the league in a lot of statistical categories. Pinto with Giroux especially, like what good chemistry, really good line, playing well, and it's been a godsend for the Senators, especially through the loss of Brady Tkachuk. And now, Brady's just barely back. They can't seem to win a game with Brady in the lineup. Maybe that's a nice topic for today. But anyway, now you lose Pinto, and 2 weeks. It's not like it's a couple days. It's a couple of weeks. Of course, we don't know what it is, but that's going to be a tough hole to fill. We'll see how that works out over the course of the next 2 weeks.
I think we talked about that in the last episode, the deference possibility.
Yeah,
I think it's never a conscious decision any player makes, but when your conquering hero, your captain, the guy that so-called drags you into the fight, as all the cliches come out, when that guy returns, maybe unconsciously there's a bit of deference that guy is now going to really take up more than his share of pulling on the rope, and maybe there's an unconscious ease-up factor. Don't know, but it's interesting that Travis Green at the Saturday morning skate right after it, he made the actual comparison between Pinto's absence and the absence of Brady Tkachuk. He said it's kind of the similar thing in terms of the impact of the player. At least I hope he's saying it in those terms. I hope he's not saying that the guy's going to be, the comparable there is that he might be gone 20 games like Brady Tkachuk was. I don't think that's the case,
right.
But it is a bit concerning when you hear the words "at least" in there. He's just been such a good player. I think he means it more from the perspective of such a heavy impact, a different kind of player, but just plays in all situations. So everybody was somebody play this clip here for a second. I'll get your take. Basically, everybody was asked about Shane Pinto's absence after the game on Thursday and into Friday morning as well. So here is a quick medley of what guys had to say about the importance of Shane Pinto to their roster.
For sure. I mean, you lose a player like that, the year he's having, how reliable he is to play against the other team's top guys every night. So we're hoping he's okay and it's not too bad.
I mean, I think it showed this year that what it's kind of shown his whole career. He's such a instrumental piece of the score. And I mean, that sucks. I haven't seen him, so hopefully it's nothing too serious, but I mean, he's just such a great player out there, but he's a very important piece in this locker room as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's a massive part of this team. He logs a lot of minutes. He's a very important role. So when you lose a guy like that, it's tough. But we have a lot of depth. We have guys that can step up, and it's not an excuse.
Well, he usually plays. You can start off just with matchups. He usually plays against the other team's top line. So it doesn't get more important than that. Plays the power play, plays the penalty kill, plays when you're up a goal. Good chance he'll play when you're down a goal. He's a big part of our team.
So there's your medley of Ottawa Senators and their reactions to Shane Pinto's absence in the lineup. We should, I guess, also point out that, if they ask about any player in that locker room, of course they're all going to rave, but I happen to agree with everything that was said in this particular case.
Yeah, the other big comparison to Brady is, of course, he plays in all situations. I guess Brady doesn't even kill penalties, right?
No.
So really, you're talking only Stützle kind of plays PK and power play. Dylan Cozens occasionally, but really, he's an integral part. Not only is he a guy who plays in all situations, he's an integral part. Like he's one of your first unit PK. Second unit PP, sometimes first unit, but 5-on-5, top line checking. Like he's pretty important, and it's That's big shoes to fill. I guess it's going to be Ridley Greig at least to start, and we'll see how that turns out. But that's asking a lot because it's not only stepping into the lineup and making up for those minutes, but it's fitting in on a line with Amadio and Giroux that's been going really, really well. Like you can ill afford to have the scoring lines shrink down to less and less guys producing offensively. You need the offense to continue to come from Amadio and Giroux and whoever they're with.
If you're looking at that line analytically, all the metrics that go beyond just points, they are right there among the best in the NHL. But that's with Pinto anchoring things. And as you mentioned, Ridley Greig is taking over, and you can see that going for the foreseeable future. Maybe you look at Stephen Halliday at some point. I don't know, but Gregg gets the first shot, no question about that, and it starts on in the Saturday game against St. Louis. And he certainly has, I think, the ability to fill in nicely in most roles. But how shocked are you that Ridley Greig's point production is as low as it is? The guy just got a big new contract that's kicking in here. And it is, to me, surprising to see that he's still not in double digits yet offensively. He's not dramatically off the pace that he put up last year, but I was expecting kind of a spike in the points per game. Where are you at as far as your expectations for Ridley Greig went this season?
Yeah, I think we all expected an increase. The Senators spent all summer telling us how the maturity of the group, the development of the players within the group is just as important as going out and finding somebody else to come in. Ridley Greig would be one of those guys that everybody was looking at as being a player whose point production should increase, his offensive output should be going up. I think his biggest problem is I can't think of anybody where I've seen him consistently perform. Like he moves up and down the lineup. Okay, that's great, versatile player. We love that. But no matter where he is, he doesn't seem to ever attach to anybody. You don't see yourself saying, "Oh, hey, look at how well he plays with X," or "Look at how well this little pair goes," or "Look at how good that line's going right now." He's never really seemed to have established any chemistry with anyone, and I think you can almost say that about his entire career. When he first started, he had a lot of chemistry with Giroux. You remember that, and there was stories about when Ridley Greig was a young child, and his dad was around the Flyers, or he was around the Flyers because his dad was there, and he had a connection with Giroux, and there was some chemistry there to start with. But other than that, he's never really established a position within the lineup that says, "Yep, that you're right in ink every lineup. That's where Ridley Greig goes," and that's probably hurt him. I don't know. I guess it's a chicken and egg thing, right? Has it hurt him that he hasn't been able to find somebody, or has he not been able to find somebody because maybe he just can't? Which is it? And that's probably a concern long term for the Senators as to if you're going to hang on to this guy, where exactly does he fit in the lineup? And I think that's probably the biggest question.
For me, it would be taking Michael Amadio's spot, and Amadio's just been so good. That's where I would, if Amadio didn't exist, that's where I'd have Gregg playing with Pinto and Giroux.
Mhm.
But the reality is Amadio has just been, the points are comparable, and that's where Gregg, I thought, would have had it all over Amadio. But if Amadio's points are going to be the same as Gregg, I feel like Amadio plays just he might be the best on the team in terms of guys I want out there, always above the puck, always making good decisions in terms of his positioning. So if he's going to be neck and neck with Ridley Greig, well, guess who's taking a back seat? Then it's Ridley Greig. Gregg's only path to being ahead of Amadio is to put up big points, which I would have expected by now. As a former first rounder in Brandon, he lit it up, and the points just haven't been to a point where I say, yeah, he's got to be in the lineup ahead of Amadio. So that's my theory. That's where he eventually could be, but it's not going to happen if Amadio keeps blocking him like this. And in the big picture, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You want people to earn their minutes. Well, here's a case of a guy who unfortunately hasn't been able to earn his minutes, to earn his place higher up in the lineup. He did when Brady went out. You'll recall it was Gregg who first came in to kind of try to fill Brady's net front presence spot on the power play, but that didn't last for long. He just couldn't seem to lock it down and gather a spot and keep a spot on a power play. PP1 it was at that point. He's had cups of coffee on PP2 over the years, but it just seems that Lars Eller steps in there now. Like lots of different people have stepped in on PP2. Madio, for one, even Gaudette last year. People get there ahead of him. It seems like he often gets the first shot, but then somebody else kind of establishes it and keeps the spot. So, like I say, he just needs to they need to find a spot. Either he needs to find it, or the coach needs to find it, or somebody needs to find a spot where he can fit in the lineup and play consistently with the same guys, and then hopefully establish that chemistry that Amadio's been able to establish with Giroux and Pinto.
Hayden Hodgson is the guy that was called up to replace, not directly, of course, Shane Pinto on the roster. And he did kind of get the first look in the game, or is planning. We're doing this on a Saturday afternoon, so I'm trying to keep this as generic as possible. Hodgson is starting in the game on Saturday against St. Louis. I was thinking a little bit in terms of maybe that's Arthur Kaliyev's music, because he is just murdering opposing goalies down in the American Hockey League. He's well over a point of game, and why don't I just call up his stats here as I talk, because I think they're worth talking about, because really the Belleville Senators have not really had anybody hovering near the top of the AHL stats page, that I can even remember offhand.
Right.
We're always celebrating the Angus Crookshanks of the world coming in, with maybe a points per game average of about 0.6, and he's their leading scorer, and so on and so forth. But we have a legit, threat. Kaliyev has 15 goals in his 22 American Hockey League games. How long are you going to be able to keep that guy down on the farm, do you think?
Well, that's the problem, right, Steve? Do you bring him up here, and suddenly he goes from playing the way he's playing in a role that's perfect for him, power play time, 5-on-5 time, number one line, lots of minutes. You bring him up here, and he's only going to play in the fourth line. Like, I don't know that he's going to suddenly jump into a second, top six role here, and that's the bugaboo, right? Like, do you want to bring a guy up like that and have him just sit here and really not get an opportunity to show, or not get an opportunity to perform to the extent that he performs down there, because the scenario is completely different. Okay, it's one league, but it's more than just one league. It's who he's playing against, who he's playing with, what kind of minutes he's getting, what kind of opportunity he gets. So if you're just going to bring a guy up to play your fourth line, I don't know, somewhere between, some nights it might be as low as 6 or 7 minutes. You might peak at 10 or 11, maybe even 12, but that's not going to get you the same Arthur Kaliyev that Belleville's getting, right? So it's like there's no real point to it. I understand why it's not him getting called up, because you're not getting that player, right? You're not going to get 15 goals in 22 games playing on the fourth line.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing, right? Because if you're a fan or even a media member who's looking at the stats down in the American Hockey League, and you say to yourself, that guy has unlocked the caramel secret down in the AHL, so he must be an NHL threat. It's not necessarily the case. Like, the American Hockey League is filled with guys who lit it up down there, but that step to the NHL, that slight difference in processing and pace and everything about the NHL that makes it better, it's just not a jump that some are ever able to make. Kaliyev may be in that category. Still young, though. He's still a tweener for me at 24. Usually I base it on age. If there's a 29-year-old I never heard of that's leading the American Hockey League in scoring, I don't get that excited, honestly. Right. But if you're a guy like Kaliyev, who's still just 24, 25, whatever he is, I don't necessarily close the door, but it does let's try that, raise red flags for me. And I'd love your coach's perspective on, what do you think the difference is? Why some guys can light it up in the American Hockey League, but the NHL remains completely like a foreign world, unsolvable to them?
I'd say first and foremost, it's foot speed. It's speed, period. Foot speed and processing speed. You alluded to some of it there while you were speaking. It's how quickly things happen, how quickly situations present themselves. But not only how quickly that situation presents itself, but for how brief a second of time that situation presents itself. Oh, there's a passing lane there to that guy. And if you don't make that pass, it's gone in the blink of an eye, right? It's process, it's read, it's react. It's what did I see? What did I do? And that's what it comes down to for most of these guys. And it's either because their brain's not quick enough, and or their feet aren't quick enough, right? You've got to get to a hole in the right amount of time. You got to get to the right hole at the right time. So it's all about speed of feet, speed of brain, in my sense, anyway. That's same thing. All you listeners out there who have kids playing minor hockey, right? Why is that guy a AAA player and that guy's a rep B player? Well, it's processing speed. It's how quickly he moves and how quickly he thinks, and that's exactly what happens here with guys that can score in the American Hockey League. They might be a touch slower. They might even be a slower player down there, but they're quick enough and smart enough to make up for that, to get to the right space at the right time and make the right play. And that's what it comes down to in my mind. It just speed. Speed kills. Speed kills your chances too.
So what is your opinion of Stephen Halliday then? Because we celebrate what he's done so far in the American Hockey League. He had a nice assist in his first game, but I also see a guy that I think his speed is good when he's up to speed. He's got what I call the Colin Greening effect, a guy who would go to the NHL skills challenge and compete for fastest skater, because you're talking about, whipping around the ice like that 200-foot speed. But the game, obviously, as we all know, is played in really short little sample sizes, and I don't see a player with quick feet, but obviously as an offensive mind like Kaliyev does. Do you have the same concerns about Halliday as a potential NHL player?
I think right now the only thing that Halliday appears to be missing in the brief time I've watched him play, the main thing it's missing for me there is the 200-foot game, is learning the other side of the puck. I think back to the one goal where he was basically third man high and pinched down the left side and left a 2-on-1, and they gave up a goal against. I see him being more of a defensive liability at this point in his career. And if he can get that part of his game going, then he probably has a better chance, because, as you say, he is a better skater than Kaliyev. He'll never be a sniper to the degree that Kaliyev could or should be in the American Hockey League. Kaliyev could shoot the puck, right? This guy could score goals. I'm not sure that Halliday's going to be that type of goal scorer or point producer, but he improves his defensive side of the puck. I could see him playing in the NHL for sure, and probably in a middle six role, which is a pretty darn nice living for a young man like that, right? You get into the NHL, you can play in the middle six for 15 years. You're laughing.
Sens need him right now, and Stephen Halliday we're talking about, and that obviously you have the Shane Pinto injury, but Lars Eller remains out of the lineup. He's just day-to-day. Travis Green didn't really want to talk about it. We've also got Zub back in the lineup, and so that's a good thing for the organization. But, the injury news protectionism from Travis Green, I find it an irritant. There are things that there are roads that Travis Green, publicly speaking, does not want to go down. I think he's engaging if you hit the right topic, but if you want to talk to him about injuries or you want to talk about specific players, he doesn't like to talk guys up or talk guys down unless they need a boost. You can hear that. He'll happily talk about Curtis McDermott, who is taking all kinds of flack from the media and from fans on social media about, do we need a guy like that or not? Green just volunteered a bunch of really positives about the guy, so he'll do that. But particularly on the injury front, a guy like Lars Eller, he basically said, I don't want to talk about it this week. I'm paraphrasing, but it was something along those lines. And with Shane Pinto, it was very cloak and dagger until we see him pop up on injured reserve on Saturday morning. Then after that skate, there's like he has to kind of acquiesce at that point. He says, yeah, he'll be at a minimum at least 2 weeks. Why do you think Travis Green is as protective as he is with injury information?
I think probably a lot of it has to do with the fact he's a former player, Steve. And I think the players, if you ask the players, they would probably prefer, I bet it'd be 90% of National Hockey League players don't want anybody to know anything ever about anything they're feeling, from a stubbed toe to a broken clavicle, right? They don't want that injury information out there. And I think Travis Green, being a former player and probably one who, let's face it, he played on the edge, right? Travis Green was Ridley Greig, and with a little more offense. He played on the edge. He played over the edge a lot, and he probably had a lot of nagging injuries throughout his career. And I bet that's where it stems from, first and foremost. We don't talk about injuries. We don't discuss injuries. And he's probably also part of them that understands the difference between injured and hurt. He's probably not a fan of guys who go off to the dressing room and don't come back when in his mind, they might just be hurt, not really injured. I bet he's pretty tough on guys with injuries too. But but I get it. Like it sucks to say it, but that is the league we're in. Everybody does it. They just simply do not release proper information about injuries. I can't stand it. I don't think it's right. I love the way the NFL does it, and I don't think the NHL is going to come around anytime soon. But if you ask me why Travis Green's that way, I believe that has a lot to do with it. He's a player who comes from a background of we don't discuss injuries.
So let's say Shane Pinto, we announced that he's got a bum knee, a torn knee of some kind, ACL, MCL, whatever it is. So when he gets back, do you believe there are NHL donkeys out there because they have that information that it's a knee that are targeting that knee? Are there people that dirty in the NHL that would target a situation like that? Because if so, that's another reason why a coach might hold back.
Well, I don't think you necessarily there'd be guys who would be targeting. Be a very small minority, but let's face it, there are guys who you go into a game and hey, so and so's first game back or second game back from an injury. Let's make sure we welcome him. Finish our checks on so and so tonight. He's coming off something, or I saw the video of last night's game and so limped off the ice in the third period. Let's make sure we're finishing hard on that guy tonight. So I think there's an increased awareness when a injured, hurt, ailing player or just back from injury player is in the lineup. There's an increased awareness of finish your check and let's be physical on this guy and make sure he knows you're there. I don't want to, targeting to me is probably not the right word, but in a sense, I guess you are targeting. But no, what you're talking about is I'm specifically going to go Bobby Clark / that guy in the ankle because we need him out of the lineup. That stuff's not going to happen. But yeah, you're thinking about it. It's in the back of your mind every time you approach somebody coming off an injury. I'm going to be physical with that guy tonight because you don't know, he's probably not 100% yet. So to that extent, yes, I believe there is an awareness and a change of play when certain guys have the puck in games who are coming off injuries.
I think the only thing that slows people down from doing the so-called mean things like that, vicious things like that, is high-definition television that you could slow down, and the NHL Department of Player Safety would look at something like that and throw the book at a guy who comes in to try and obviously clean out a guy's knee, not making the so-called hockey play. I think that slowed it down more than the world being a kinder, gentler place in the NHL. I think back to grainy old television like when we were little kids. I don't know if you ever saw the video of Bobby Orr, famous for ongoing knee injuries and such, and just one of those guys that just loved to go 200 feet with the puck by himself and score on the other team. The Bruins one night played against the Detroit Red Wings, and I swear to God, the Red Wings did everything but take out a handgun and shoot the guy at the blue line. Like, they went after that knee, obviously, consistently. Frank Mahovlich, with one of the dirtiest things I've ever seen, just comes in and just cleans the guy's knee out. The world has changed quite a bit in a lot of ways, hasn't it?
Oh, correct. Or I thought you were going to cite the Pat Quinn. One of the first Bob Orr knee injuries was Pat Quinn with the Leafs. Took him out with a bit of a hip check, knee, who knows what it was, and the grainy footage of it, you still can't tell. You never really get a good look at to determine whether it was intentional or not. But yeah, it was a different game in those days, Steve. Trust me, Ted Lindsay would have gone right after you. Gordie Howe would have gone right after your injury for sure in those days.
Up on the housetop, Tim. Oh, hey, it's Steve here for Celebrate. I'm just putting on my old school Christmas lights with these obnoxious little plastic clips in minus 30-degree temperature at the top of this ladder 12 feet off the ground. No, I'm not doing any of that anymore. No, sir. Celebrate.ca. I urge you to check them out today.
Celebrate is your permanent holiday lighting solution. So many options. St. Paddy's Day green, Team Canada red and white, orange for Halloween, and the beautiful colors of Christmas. And Celebrate is all controlled from your smartphone.
And Celebrate's installers were absolutely fantastic and professional. I urge you to check them out today. Celebrate.ca. It's a wobbly ladder.
Once again, Greg, we want to welcome our great new sponsor, Midas. You can find your favorite location at Midas.com.
We talked last show, Steve, about the buy 3, get 1 free on the Nexen tires. These guys sell every kind of tire, from the low grade to the high grade, any tire you like. But the best part is, no matter what tire you buy, you get a lifetime warranty on this sucker, right? If you get a flat, all you got to do is go into Midas, anywhere in North America. If they can repair it, they'll repair it for free. If they can't repair it, they'll replace it, Steve. Brand new tire, free of charge. All you got to do is pay for somebody to install it. So I'm saying this time of year, it's the right time of year. Get into Midas, get your tires. Orleans, Bank Street, Bronson, Bell's Corners, Gatineau. Hit up a Midas and get some new tires.
All right, a couple of other things. The Sens in the big picture. They've lost 3 of 4 as we speak right now on a Saturday afternoon, a snowy Saturday afternoon as they get ready for the St. Louis Blues game. Are you any? I mean, you look at the standings. It's just lying to you. The NHL East is just insane. So after the game, let's say before the game on Thursday against the Rangers, I believe the Sens were in second place in the Atlantic, and after losing that game, all of a sudden they were still only a point back of Montreal, I think, to jump back into the top 3, but they plummeted, and they're about 4 or 5 teams out of a playoff spot in just a day. The NHL East is crazy, but it's not a time to get cold. It's not a time to have injuries pile up to key players as is happening right now, because Chabot is out, Eller's out, and now Pinto is out. At least Zub is back. But, I mean, I don't know. It's still fairly early in the season, just past the quarter turn, but I can't recall as kind of the lead up to the holidays where so many teams were in the mix. I guess that will speak to the fact that we probably will have a pretty quiet trade deadline, too, later on with no sellers.
Yeah. Well, one person who's happy, that's Parity Bettman. He's thrilled with this. He's wanted it all along, and he's finally got it. Like, I was just looking at the East standings before we came on here today, and the fact that teams like, well, okay, first of all, Washington is leading the East. That's absurd. Now, I get it. Okay, they got 3 games in hand on Carolina. All right. But like Pittsburgh's ahead of the Senators, Philly's ahead of the Senators. It's just silly. Some of these teams that are, it's terrible. I'm sorry. I don't like parity. I don't want parity. I want the best teams to be the best teams, and I want there to be 7 or 8 absolute pieces of crap dog pile at the bottom of the standings too. Like, that's the way it should be. You're either good enough or you're not good enough. The loser point is ruined the NHL. You lose a game and still get a point. That's absolutely absurd. People make jokes about kids' games where we give out participation medals. Well, you want an adult version of the participation award? There it is, the loser point in the National Hockey League. It's terrible. It needs to go away fast. But even having said that, how many loser points do the Senators have, Steve? Where would they be if the standings were simply 2 for a win, 0 for a loss, right? Like, it'd be kind of tough for the Senators to they wouldn't be where they are today in the standings. But it speaks also to the get your points while you can, bank them early, bank them often. And the Senators did a job like that while Brady was out. And in banking points, there were games they were losing in overtime. There were games where they were not looking all that great, but still got at least a point. You need to bank the points. And that's what was disappointing about the Ranger game. I really thought going into Montreal, they looked really, really good. Man, they look good. The biggest benefit of that's the last game of a 7-game trip, and you're almost ready to go home. It's the last game. Usually it's a dud. Thank God it was the Habs. So the Senators are fired up and played a really good game. It might have been their best 60 of the season. That was a really, really good game. Come home, play the Rangers, the usual first game back after a long trip. You're not always the best. But I thought they looked good enough. They played good enough to win, and unfortunately, third period was not good enough. And they lost that game. But you really need to bank points. I can't say it enough. But, Steve, I think you really need to bank some points.
Let me ask you this. Do they need to bank points?
Yeah, apparently, yeah. I heard it. From a friend.
There you go. So, yeah, you're right about the loser point. The Rouge, as I like to call it. The NHL's version of the Rouge. But it's like, and then we're getting rid of the Rouge in the CFL. That's crazy. It's crazy. Well, not totally, but they're changing it.
Correct.
But the Red Blacks.
I
was about to go down that road. The Senators are 13-14 if you take out the overtime losses. They've got 4 OTLs in there, but 10 losses. So the 13-10-4. So 13-14. And in the old NHL, you wouldn't be that excited about that, but you just sort of have this feeling of like the Sens are going good.
Well, that's the whole point, though, right? That's the whole point of the parity.
Yep.
is that your team's still in it. Your team's in it for longer. It's what we call fake 500, right? Because you've got 50% of the available points, so you're 500, but really five of them, or four in this case, four of them have come from games you really lost. But even then, the Sens would be under 500, right? You said 13 and 14, they're under 500. So I just fake 500 and the loser point. It's just it is what keeps more fans interested. It keeps your team looking better than they are, and it keeps butts going and sitting in seats, because that's, oh hey, they're only in fourth place, so we go watch because they're in the race.
So in a year where there's so much of that, where parity has just eaten up the NHL and things are so close, particularly in the NHL East, we're starting to see some separation with the bad teams out west. But really, everybody fancies themselves as a potential playoff team in the East still because of the mediocrity going on. So, with that said, how the hell do we explain the Colorado Avalanche being the Harlem Globetrotters of the young NHL season? They lost a game this week. 2 losses now on the season, 19-2-6 on the season. How are we explaining how good Colorado is with the separation they have in a year filled with all this so-called parity?
Well, I think it helps when you have. He's not the most talented. I think Connor McDavid is still the most talented player in the league, but there's a guy out there, Nate McKinnon, who is the most valuable, most talented, or no? What do you want to say? He's the best. He's the best player in the league right now. Not the most talented, but he's the best player in the league right now. And you've got Cale Makar, like all-world defenseman. Cale Makar is going to win the Norris going away. You've got two of the best players in the world playing at their best, and you've got a team that plays very well together. A nice cohesive unit, man. They're fun to watch. The speed, the tempo with which they play, but can still play defense. That's a really good, fun team to watch, and they're just dominating, Steve. They dominate night in and night out. They're fun to watch, people. You might want to stay up late one night and try to catch an Avalanche game if you can. That's a really good hockey club.
McKinnon, to me, because there are two types of players in the league. There are racehorses and there are workhorses. And somehow McKinnon manages to combine the two. He looks like a workhorse in terms of body. He looks like he's just as happy to go through you as around you. He's got that unbelievable speed, but he also has that strength and size to him as well. Just a terrific hockey player. I agree with you. I'm not sure, man, he'd be in that discussion. There's so many great players in the league that I really admire, that I just love their games. But I don't think I can put anybody above McKinnon per se. And it may be his teammate, Cale Makar, that you'd throw in the mix as well. Like that guy has 5 more goals than any Ottawa Senator. And he plays defense. Just throwing that in there.
Yeah.
Madness. So we got a little aside there on the Colorado Avalanche here on the Sens Nation podcast. Couple other things. Former Senators, Josh Norris for one. Great to see him back. He's played 4 games now, and he has 5 points. His first game back, he got 2 goals. Is this the comeback, Gregg, that finally sticks for this guy?
Is it the final comeback? Right?
That'd be nice.
That'd be nice. You can't help but root for him. Apparently, it wasn't the shoulder. It was something completely different. Of course, we'll never know exactly what it was because people don't tell us. We already covered that. But no, I like watching Josh Norris play. I've been a Josh Norris fan since before the Senators acquired him. I think, we roll back the tape, fans. I always said Josh Norris was going to be the best player in that trade. I love Josh Norris, a hockey player, a centerman who could score goals. He's fun to watch, smart hockey player, strong on his feet, and it's good to see him having some success, and hopefully he stays healthy. And because if anybody deserves to have a little bit of success, I think it's the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, he had a beautiful play where in his first game back, he really showed off his speed through the neutral zone and his anticipation to get in a great spot for a breakaway. Sweet little sort of backhander between the legs. I said, oh, there's the Josh Norris that everybody in Ottawa knows and loves. And if he can just stay healthy, the Buffalo Sabres will have a player they're really, really going to enjoy for the next at least 6 or 7 years left on his contract. So great to see. And I think Sens fans are fairly happy all in all with Dylan Cozens. I don't know that I like his game as much as Josh Norris's, but I do like the durability factor. Not to mention, he's starting to impose his will on games. A lot of people trace Dylan Cozens, I will say, carefulness out there on the ice back to a fight that he lost very badly, that he wasn't quite imposing his will on games the way he had. It looks like that's starting to fade, because to me, with each passing game, and as long as he's last year, he's new to the team, he's trying maybe to do too much. Now he's kind of settling in as an Ottawa Senator, and I've really liked his game. Have you? Well, before I move on, what have you thought of Dylan Cozens?
Well, Dylan Cozens is the perfect example of a guy who works hard, just doesn't always work smart. Historically speaking, he's been a guy who works hard, doesn't work smart. He's there are things he needed to learn to make his 200-foot game that much better, to be a much better player at both ends of the ice and both sides of the puck. And that was the problem in Buffalo. And it was coaching staff after coaching staff after coaching staff couldn't seem to get him to buy in. Nobody found the magic words, the magic cues to turn him into a better two-way hockey player. And they finally eventually gave up on the guy in Buffalo, obviously, and that's why he's here. So I think Travis Green has had an impact on him, and his game is better, and I've seen it get better this year compared to last year, and this month compared to last month. He's coming around, and when he turns in and he gets it all together, then he's a 30-goal scorer like he was at Buffalo. When he's a guy who can play both sides of the puck, be the workhorse from Whitehorse that we know him to be, but the smart workhorse, then yeah, he's a player. He can be a player in this league.
Be more pressure on him now for the next couple of weeks, and hopefully it's
Sure.
just that. They're saying Shane Pinto is probably not going to need any kind of surgery. We'll see. I'll always believe those things when I see it, because I'm not necessarily, even when information is given out by this organization, I always feel like they're always putting a pretty bow on it and giving you the rose-colored glasses view of things.
Mhm.
But okay, let's take it for what it is. The next 2 weeks and change, Shane Pinto out of the lineup, Ridley Greig in there instead. All of a sudden, teams aren't as worried about that position and that line as they were, so they can load it up more on Stützle and Cozens, and we'll see what the response looks like there. The other former senator, that's on a nice little roll. Not that I'm calling for him to come back to Ottawa, although when you look at the depth on the left side in Belleville, I think he'd pretty much come in handy right about now. But Eric Brandstrom is off to a fantastic start in Switzerland. He leads all Swiss defensemen in scoring. I think it's something like, 20 or 25 points in 30 games, something like that, but leads all defensemen. And so, again, that's a guy who's gone now, like Norris. And I'm not calling for his return per se, although maybe Belleville should. But I do think, you got to feel good for the guy, because he must have felt like garbage leaving the NHL last year, playing for 4 different organizations in one season after leaving Ottawa. Now he's having a taste of success and probably loving the sport of hockey again. That's nice to see.
Yeah, and he's in his element, Steve. Right? He's playing in Europe on bigger ice surfaces. This guy's he's a skater. He's a puck mover. He's a transporter. He's an offensive defenseman. He's a dance the blue line, get pucks to the net, make things happen offensively. And when you've got that much more time and space as you do on a bigger European ice surface, he's going to look that much better offensively. Now, of course, he has problems defensively, but if he's on a good enough team where the rest of the pieces are strong enough so that you spend more time in the offensive zone, then Bob's your uncle. Go to town there, Brandy. You're the man, right? Like, as long as he's not stuck in his own zone and trying to cover a bigger area of ice in his own defensive plan where he can be exposed, he's going to excel. He's going to look good. He's going to quarterback a power play. He's going to make great plays offensively. He's going to make great plays carrying the puck up the ice. So he's in his element, and he probably was never really comfortable physically. I mean, I don't want to say that he was unhappy or anything, but as far as playing the game the way he likes to play the game, he probably never really had an opportunity in any of those stops in the NHL. Never was he anywhere where he was in the role that is best suited to him and the role that he had played all of his minor career and minor pro, junior career, whatever. Everything all the way up was pointing to, you're going to be an offensive defenseman someday. Gets the NHL, never really gets that opportunity, is never in that role, so therefore never has any success. So now he's in a place where he just fits perfectly, and good on him. He should play for years over there and be very happy.
We always like to leave with a little NHL discussion beyond the Senators, and that the one I've chosen for today, and I've neglected to tell you, it was this about a week ago. You've got young Connor Bedard with some of his friends just walking down the sidewalk, minding their own businesses, off to somewhere, and an autograph seeker comes up alongside Connor Bedard and asks,
Connor, can you please sign a magazine for me, man? You could personalize it, please? You could personalize it. There's only 3 of us. I've never gotten your autograph before. You could personalize it.
Oh, we gotta go.
Please?
We gotta be in 2 minutes.
What if I write to Joanna for you? I've never gotten you, dude. Please, just really quick. You can shit on it. I don't care. I got every single one of these magazines signed before. And you're the only person I've never gotten. What can I do to say yes? It takes 2 seconds to sign. Can you just walk and sign it, please? Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Thank you. Connor, please. Thank you, Connor. Thank you, Connor.
and this guy's got the cell phone on Connor Bedard. So immediately I think, okay, this guy's coming into this interaction with the intent of being a jerk or pressuring him because he's on cell phone. Maybe he won't turn me down. And Connor Bedard finally just grabs the pen and just, I don't know, just basically makes a bunch of lines. He doesn't even sign per se like a regular autograph. But then it was put on social media and people were saying, oh, look at him, big league Connor Bedard, that can't stop off for the fans to sign an autograph. I'll leave you with a first opinion on that. What do you think?
Well, I think people need to understand there's such a thing as a professional autograph seeker, right? These are the guys who are in the hotel lobby with about 42 glossies of player X that they want him to sign. And the sole reason that the player signs that is so that they can then sell it on eBay or sell it in their sports store or whatever. And when players see such a thing, they do not wish to do anything. They don't want to sign for those people. So that was the argument. Even during the video, the guy says, hey, I'm not one of those guys. I'm just a fan. But you're walking down the street with a single picture of Connor Bedard. Yeah, Connor was a little leery. And I don't blame him. I get it. And the guy even said, hey, you could personalize it if you want because that decreases the value. Bobby Orr only signs personalized nowadays, has for, 10 years now. I've got a couple of them in my house, and they all say, to Gregg, Bobby Orr. That's just the way he signs now for that reason. So I get where Connor's coming from, and I honestly, Steve, I don't have a problem with it. And I think that the big-time hotshot American sport guys like baseball, basketball, football players, they're probably pretty much in agreement with him too. And their argument is it wasn't like it was a public event, right? A lot of times that's what they do in the States. They'll have a signing, so-and-so is going to be at this store today, or he's going to be at this place today, or at this convention today. And they sit at a table and you line up and you pay $5 and you get one. That I understand. That's more what these players are used to. And that's when they say yes. But when you're in a group like that and you're obviously a pro, I understand why a player says no, and I have no problem with it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've got nothing to add to that. You covered everything that I would talk about. I think people do not understand. The ones who came down hard on him on social media, like, what a jerk, big time in this guy. It's just an autograph. It's just until you walk a mile in their shoes and see the people that they deal with, hounding them again and again and again. Right. It's like, okay, I'm giving you an autograph and you're making money off it, and you're not sharing it with me. And it's just tedious, I think, for these guys to have to deal with that. If it's a little kid, even you still have to. You still have
a 10-year-old kid.
No, let me finish.
Sorry.
If it's a little kid, you can't even necessarily know for sure because these twits, autograph seekers, will give a kid like, here's $10, go get Bobby's autograph or whatever. And so they even have to be careful with that angle as well. But I think that's generally the golden rule. You always try to sign for the kids, but even that can sometimes be a difficult thing because the autograph seeker sometimes wins on that occasion as well. But I'm the same as you. I don't hold anything against it in large part because there are many examples of Connor Bedard signing for kids and various events and things like that. So he's been nothing but gracious. Damn, he's a kid himself. So I think he understands exactly what it's like to get an autograph from your heroes and things like that. So it's a difficult spot for the players to be in, though, because it is a nuisance. And I have no issue with what Connor Bedard did there as well. Before we wrap up, when we were talking about topics, attendance came up, and you were saying the Sens are a little bit up on the attendance front, yes?
Yes, they're up exactly 190 more people average per game this season than last. Their average attendance is like 90.1% of capacity. They're in 25th place in the league at that number, which is considered, you're over 90%, you're considered to be doing well. So good on them. I would have thought attendance would be up a little more this year, but it is up, and that's good. That's good news. Their attendance is up.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than down, but it's almost status quo.
Yeah.
And I'm probably, I would have expected to be a bigger spike, given that they finally ended their playoff drought and the fun of going to the playoffs and the excitement of a good young team. But I'm but 90%, you don't complain too much about that. But at only 100 more, I guess I probably would have expected maybe a little bigger boost. But here we are.
But the 190 extra tickets sold per game is number 9 in the league on the plus side. So think of that, Steve. They're only plus 190 average per game, but that's 9th best in the league. So it's not like they're way behind the top teams in improvements, and it's not like they're down at the bottom. That 190 it probably is fair. I guess it must be considered semi-impressive if it's 9th best in the league difference, I guess, right?
Yep, absolutely. It is a fun, likable team, and we'll see how they do through the month of December, which I think is going to be very big. It's almost like in this NHL East that's just slathered in parity, we almost need to put away the U.S. Thanksgiving playoff rule and maybe bring it up to New Year's or something like that. Maybe a few of the horses are going to break away from the pack, but right now it's a big old clump, pretty much from 1 down to 16 in the East. There's a bit of separation between 1 and 16, but not the kind you'd expect in the first week in December. Next episode, we're also going to get into our Olympic choices. Team Canada's Olympic roster is coming out at the end of the month. I think we have a fair sample size of the best players in the early part of the season that might be changing some minds to the good or the bad. So Gregg and I are going to put together our Canadian Olympic rosters and see where we differ. And if you want to send along your Olympic rosters to participate in the discussion as well, feel free to do so at sensnationhockey@outlook.com. So that's coming up in our next episode, and that will do it for today's show. We do appreciate you being here today. Don't forget that our website is sensnationhockey.com. That's an easy way to find the podcast each and every time, whether you're going to YouTube, whether you're going to the audio platform, whether you're going to the Hockey News, which main site is thn.com/Ottawa, which is sometimes hard to remember, but there's a link to the Hockey News at the Sens Nation page as well, sensnationhockey.com. Thanks to everybody on CJRO Radio, FM 107 in the East End of Ottawa. It airs 3 times. This show does 3 times per week, so we thank them for taking the show on. And Gregg, we thank you, as always, for your expertise and your commentary today, and we shall talk to you in our next episode.
Expertise. I'm thrilled. Thanks, Steve. See you next time, buddy.